For Real Men Only is the 8th episode of the 8th season of Cheers. This is directed, of course, by the wonderful James Burrows. And as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. Great episode, really funny. We have potentially a double goof, which I'll talk about in a moment. We have a couple of other goofs that I think are rather good fun. And in general, I just think this is a really fabulous episode. It starts off with Woody coming into the bar. He has something from his grandmother's attic. It's a memory quilt the family made for him when he was graduating high school. And there are a lot of representations of how he almost died, including from smallpox. And this is our first of, I think, 2 goofs, and this one I wouldn't have picked up on. The information was on IMDb, and I did a little bit of research around it, and I'd love to know if anybody has any more thoughts, because apparently the last recorded case of smallpox in the States was in the 1940s, so not when Woody was a young child. But on IMDb it's listed as an incorrect goof, and I don't know why that's then incorrect, because if the last known case was in the 40s, that would therefore be a correct goof. So if anybody has any thoughts on that, please feel free to let me know. I did a little bit of research and couldn't really find anything about that, but either way, I thought it was interesting. Carla then comes in with a petition. She forces Cliff to sign it, and then we find out that she's actually petitioning to get the Bruins to retire Eddie's number. And this is where our potential double goof comes in. She says that they're trying to retire number 38, but in Never Love a Goalie Part 1, Cliff says that it's number 33. And in the goofs on that IMDb page, it said that on the TV screen, we get to see the Bruins playing. It shows Eddie's number as number 31. So I watched that episode and Never Love a Goalie Part 2, but I'm not seeing it. I think in Never Love a Goalie Part 1, the gameplay for me is unclear. I can't make out any numbers. But in the gameplay in Part 2, I thought it looked like he had number 1, not 31, but number 1. And I found this website, and I will hopefully remember to link this in the description. It's line-notes.com, and they have this brilliant article about Eddie LeBec, this brilliant post. And we have some close-up images of Eddie LeBec, one of which does show number 33, as Cliff said, but there are some other photos where to me it very much looks like he has the number 1 on his arms, which is what I saw during the gameplay. So I'm not seeing any evidence of 31, as the goof suggested, but I am seeing from the gameplay and these photos, number 1, we also have a photo of number 33, again, as Cliff suggested. I don't know where the number 38 is coming from, other than from Carla. So that's a double, maybe triple goof. I'm not entirely sure, but I thought that was particularly interesting. Somebody in the bar, they're talking about Eddie LeBec. Somebody then thought they were talking about Pepe Le Pew, which I found rather amusing. And then we have this wonderful exchange between Sam and Rebecca. Rebecca comes to the bar and says, "Why me?" And Sam asks her, "Do you want to talk about it or do you want to whine?" And Rebecca says, "I guess I want to talk about it." Sam responds, No, we can't do both," which I loved. I loved because in itself is a funny response, but I love the use of we there, because it's something they're doing together. I just like that. It's such a tiny little detail. If he'd said, no, you can't do both, it just wouldn't have hit in the same way, so I quite like that. And Rebecca explains, and I quote, "Corporate wants me to throw some idiotic, stupid retirement party for some insignificant middle management nobody." To which Sam responds, "You're retiring? Congratulations." Which is very sweet. Frasier and Lilith then come in with the baby's first visit to the bar. Frasier tells a joke about how many babies does it take to change a light bulb, and then they're talking about the umbilical cord, and Cliff is very Cliff, to which Frasier responds, "Stay away from the baby, Cliff." And it's 6 minutes, 27 seconds, you can see Bebe Neuwirth struggling to contain her laugh. It's absolutely adorable, and the funny part, though, is that she's kind of off to the side, but you can see as Sam approaches her, she's just got the most beautiful smile, and then when the camera cuts back to her a split second later, it's a much more deadpan expression, which I enjoyed it quite a lot. And we find out, finally, that the baby is called Frederick. So I can now actually start referring to the child as Frederick, because I kind of struggled to not call him by his name. I didn't want to give it away, but obviously, having watched the show and Frasier before, certainly I was aware of his name. And they're having a bris this afternoon. which is the religious ceremony for circumcision. And the guys briefly thought Frasier was being circumcised, which, their response when they found out it was the baby was quite amusing. Carla is then on the phone. Rebecca comes in with some party food, moving that part of the narrative forward. Sam comes into the bar, having been unable to find a date for the bris. Very Sam thing to do. So he's decided not to go. But Norm's at the bar too, and he should have been there, but he decided not to go. The so-called middle management nobody arrives for their retirement party. This is Larry, played by Jay Robinson, and then Cliff and Woody come in, looking rather smart. They look very smart in their suits, and they also had excuses for why they didn't go to the bris, and they realise this isn't fair. We all need to go. We need to be there for Frasier and Lilith. They're about to leave. They open the door, and Frasier is standing there and says, "This bris is off. I've kidnapped my son." And eventually they talk it out and they agree to go back and face Lilith, and we'll come back to that in a moment. Carla is then forging signatures for the Eddie LeBecq petition. She's put Rebecca in between Tom Cruise and Mel Gibson. Rebecca's quite happy about that. Larry is then planning his response to the roast, and Lilith then comes in looking for Frasier, who is actually now in the office, and things are obviously not going very well with Frasier and Lilith. Things aren't going very well with the retirement party. Rebecca asks Sam for help, for some way to make the retirement party good, because she planned it. Her reputation is on the line. Sam suggests a wet t-shirt concert, and he just so happens to have a number of an organisation, that's not the right word, a company that does this. Sam then goes to the office door to see what the hold-up is. Frasier and Lilith have been in there for quite some time, and Frasier answers the door and pokes his head out, and I absolutely love this. He says to Sam, "It shouldn't be much longer. It's almost my time to talk." Which is just so realistic. I can just picture Lilith in there talking and lecturing Frasier, giving him into trouble for stealing Freddie, his whole attitude about everything. So I rather like that quite a lot. Unfortunately, the party's still not going very well. Woody comes through from the back room and says that even the girls are depressed now. And, well, things are about to get a little bit more lively, as Frasier and Lilith are ready to proceed with the circumcision, and they're going to just do it in the back room. Can't imagine that's very sanitary. I don't think that's hygienic. But this is what happens in the episode. And Carla's then on the phone with the Bruins. Apparently they're not going to retire Eddie's number because he wasn't that great a player. But they are going to give her season tickets. And that's really all she wanted. So she's really happy. And things seem to end well with the retirement party. And for Larry, the bris ceremony is over. Sam walks out holding the baby and comforting him. And then Frasier comes out carrying Lilith and comforting her. And that's how we end things. So it's a decent episode. Some really, really funny moments. I don't know if I have any specific personal highlights. I guess the conversation between Rebecca and Sam, when he asked Rebecca if she wanted to whine. The whole interaction with Frasier and Lilith when they brought Freddie in for his first visit to the bar. Everything about this really thoroughly enjoyed. Enjoyed doing some research into the goofs or potential goofs. And ultimately, I had a lot of fun with it. For Real Men Only is, needless to say, a pretty brilliant episode of Cheers.